podcast. We are live streaming interviews now on YouTube presently, in addition to your regularly scheduled Monday morning podcast episodes. So thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. My name is Shayda Torabi and I'm your host. And today I'm joined by my friend Liz Udell. And Liz, I'm just going to read your bio from the interweb and you can fill in things as we go. But you're known as Director of Digital Content and Social Media in the entertainment, restaurant, lifestyle, e-commerce, education, and cannabis industries. You're a friend of the podcast, and today I just want to dive straight in. I feel like we've had some, kind of personal one-on-one back and forth of what we were going to talk about, just observing each other on social media. You've certainly gone through some changes over the past year. And, I like to keep it blunt on the podcast. So I really want to just understand you're now self-employed. How long have you been self-employed and what made you take that jump? And also I should mention, clue us in, as self-employed, title, headline, category, what do you do as a self-employed consultant, director, fractional, content creator, insert all the things, please.
I love that you had all those different words for it because my friend has been a consultant his whole life. And when I started saying freelance, he's like, don't call yourself that. Don't. And so I've learned, I'm like, okay, I guess, it's
It's a dirty
consulting,
word.
it's contract, it's fractional, right? So I had no idea. And I still say freelance, but I guess there's a nicer way to say it. Um, but it was really scary. So I fully have been self-employed since May, since I left cookies. And before that, um, during the pandemic, really, the pandemic kind of opened the doors for the side hustles and the
For sure, for
extra
sure.
work that you could take on being remote. So from 2020 to 2022, I had my full-time salary job, but I started to get some side work because cannabis, could flip on job of a
Flip on a
hat.
dime.
Yeah, so I'm like, I kind of need a life raft, right? I'm getting paid six figures here, and if I lose this job, my unemployment's 400 a week, baby. Isn't that crazy how there's no sliding scale? How could someone who's making $500,000 get reduced to
Sorry, I hope
400
this
a
works for
week?
you.
Right? So, I had all these little side social gigs, super because social is so open. You can do a lot of things on the side with your skills. So when I was done with cookies, I realized now more than ever, people want the fractional social media. Um, and it kind of all just came at once. I think I've been subconsciously preparing myself and my network for this. To get all these leads, I guess, which is really hard to think about now because now more than ever, people are on LinkedIn because they all got laid off. So my skills are in high demand, but I have so much competition. But I feel like I'm a step ahead because I've been preparing myself for this. And I think that a lot of people who are saying that they've been laid off look in this route, don't go for the next full time. Maybe start to think about freelance consulting, social media, because I think brands are going that way too. So cannabis, right? Cannabis social media. If you want someone experienced, I don't know anyone who would do it for less than 100,000. I just don't, and I don't know brands who want to pay that. So
It's
I'm
very
like,
common.
hey, yeah. So I'm like, hey, I'll just do it for a low few thousand a month, and then you win and I win and I get more clients. So I was just talking to a really big cannabis brand yesterday that wants to take me on, and I told them this exact thing. I'm like, I think it's in your best interest to not hire full time. Just keep me. And you'll have less of the headache, you'll save money, and we'll all win. So right now more than ever, I think it's really easy to be self-employed to the extent of work is there. Um,
For sure. I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think there's so much opportunity out there. I just think it's like funneling that opportunity. So, to maybe your point, like
Hmm.
you have figured out these platforms that are just right for networking. So, I say it every episode. I'm going to say it again. Get your asses on LinkedIn. Like, it is just such a
Get your ass on LinkedIn.
powerful platform that is free and pretty cannabis friendly. I mean, I know I've seen a couple things. I think like Alice Moon has shared some things, like she's gotten posts taken down, but she's
I've seen a
also,
few, yeah.
yeah, shown how the platform is willing to work with her, and she's kind of come out to be a very cannabis centric, kind of content creator on the platform. But just like a business to business perspective, if you're like, I have a skill set or I need to find somebody, like going to LinkedIn and having your profile ready, having, your bio prepared, just being a person who's like engaging. I think you do a really great job of like posting content consistently for yourself, which is kind of like a twofold thing. I think sometimes, and maybe you can like speak on this a little bit, right? Like I feel what's the saying? It's like the shoemaker's kids are always, not wearing shoes. So it's like you're doing social media for everybody else. Like, how do you do social media for yourself? So I feel like you do a good job doing social media for yourself. Can you
Thank
speak
you.
to kind of what, like, is it just part of you, or you're like, well, duh, why wouldn't you do your own branding and like put yourself out there? Or has it been like an active process of like, okay, I'm going to show up intentionally. I'm going to create content. I'm going to, create conversation so that I can be visible. I can be a part of the dialogue. I can be the person. Cause like to me, I think of it so much so, which is like why I'm such a personal brand. You want to be top of mind. And if you can like
Yeah.
put yourself out there when someone is having an issue or a challenge and be the person who's like, oh, it's me. I'm here. I've always been here. They're going to like most likely be like, oh, I just saw Liz talking about insert whatever topic. Let me just go slide into her DMs and maybe she's available for me to hire. So how do you kind of view that, and how have you positioned yourself to like succeed in that regard as now an independent?
Yeah, I think that there's a huge debate in social media between the personal brand and your work, because I've seen people post, they're like, social media is my job, and when I'm done, I'm done. I don't want to think about it, yada. But I'm a child of the internet. I loved MySpace. I loved IAM. Like, I love social media. It is like, I can't, like, it's my life,
For
but
sure.
I love it with TikTok, right? Like, if I and it's so frustrating because I know that, social media, like I said, we're so divided on this, but like I feel like if you're a social media manager, you should have good socials of your own, right? Because I mean, like if you can't even brand yourself, but I know other people are divided on this, but
Well,
like
it's like a great
I have a
portfolio piece, like to say like, hey,
it's my
here's, yeah,
portfolio.
what I can
That's the
do.
only reason. Yeah, like I don't care about TikTok, but I care that I have 36,000 followers, because then that just instantly shows someone that I know how to use TikTok.
Absolutely.
Like that's all I care about. And I love that you brought this up, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately, that I haven't really been creating as much on TikTok. And I'm okay with that, honestly. Because like I said, I'm not a TikToker. That just shows that I know what to do. I have fun every now and then, but I am really focusing all my efforts on LinkedIn because it's fun. Instagram is like whatever, but like LinkedIn is fun. I love breaking news. I love having the conversation. I love just, like LinkedIn is such an early morning thing for me. Like I wake
Hmm.
up really early and I just like scroll, because I feel like that, like I don't use LinkedIn during the day. Like I feel like the app is kind of like programmed where all this stuff happens in the middle of the day. Like it's kind of weird, but like I don't get fed things
That's interesting.
around a certain time unless I do it in the morning. Yeah, so I come on in the morning and I'm just like, typing, having the conversations. I love my hot takes. I piss people off sometimes. I don't care. Like
I feel like
hard
this is
dose of
the
reality,
industry, or like
baby.
this is the time, yeah, to be transparent and to kind of like speak from your point of view, because I really don't think, especially in cannabis, and I do want to get into a little bit of like, you're in cannabis still, like don't get me wrong, but you've also been super vocal about the challenges, obviously, that doing social media in general in this industry has created. And so I think by not tethering yourself to a cannabis brand as your primary income, you have the flexibility to be like, you know what, I'm gonna now go play over here with food and entertainment and like
Hmm.
not threatening platforms. I don't care how much you wish cannabis wasn't stigmatized with these social media platforms. The reality is it fucking is. And so I think that
Yeah.
that's another observation I kind of realized about you. You have now this freedom as an independent to go kind of like play in other industries, really kind of see what social media and these platforms can actually do without being
Yeah.
throttled. Because, like, quick little mention, I don't think I got a chance to update. I don't know if you saw my post today. I just did a sponsored piece of content for a brand. They are for
Hmm.
sure cannabis related. In fact, I'll give them a little shout out. They're called Bud Love. They're like a bud mixer.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I saw that.
It's not even weed, but it looks like weed because it's got marshmallow leaf in it and some other,
Uh-huh.
cannabinoids, CBGs in it. So I'm assuming they're using like hemp flower. I did a giveaway. I posted it within 7 minutes. Instagram took it down, sent me the, warning letter. But their warning said
Hmm.
it was graphic violence, nudity. And I'm like, at least if you're going to reprimand me, like give me the correct categorization for why you pulled my content down. So this morning I went on a whole little like rampage of like fuck Instagram, I hate Instagram, it's dead to me.
No one works
Um,
there.
no, there are all these bots that are managing these triggers, right? And so it's very defeating. And like as a content creator myself, I'm having the hard conversation with me of like, do I want to? Did you drop the joint?
I dropped it, but we're cool. Third degree burns, we're cool.
Third degree burns. We're not burning through our clothes.
Push it, push it, push it.
But like it's so frustrating as a personal brand, as someone who has her own brand that's like all built around cannabis to be like, fuck, like now I've kind of I joke, and maybe you can speak to this part too, but like I feel like I've got like a red letter now on my account. No matter what I do on Instagram, they're just like, this girl posts about cannabis and we're going to call it shadow banning, throttle, insert whatever. It's just obviously not as easy as I used to be a food blogger. Oh my God, my food content got so much more engagement. I have friends who are music bloggers, music content creators. So when you started
Yeah.
posting like, hey, I'm going to go work with these food brands, I was like, son of a bitch. I was like, I love it. I'm so jealous. Like, go, girl, go. So, just can you speak to that a little bit about what it's like kind of transitioning out of cannabis, like what it's compared, like creating cannabis content versus non cannabis content? Like, do the platforms really, ding you or dock you because it's cannabis? Or is that just something that we kind of have made up because we feel so penalized by it? Like, I'm just curious what your hot take might be on this topic.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, my first real reality check with food was when we opened up Herbs, which is like this really famous burger place out here. The Rock showed up. You know, The Rock, like Dana White, Addison Rae, everyone was there. And I'm like, cannabis can never. Cannabis can never. Even with all the celebrity endorsements we're starting to get, you'll never get someone like The Rock at your cannabis event just because of his business, his partnerships. Like there's just so much to it that all feeds into the stigma.
Sure.
And that was, I think, the biggest, like, oh, wow. Okay. We have so much work that needs to be done to even be, treated like other industries. Um, but I love food. I love food content. Prince Street Pizza, I was able to grow their TikTok this year like 26,000 organically, millions and millions and millions of views. I did full troll marketing. I never have like that little question like, is this going to get like, you don't think it's going to get deleted?
Right.
Oh, it's so nice. And, along with food, I am doing celebrity consulting now. I have two actresses. So I do
Wow.
their social. Yeah. I have a solar energy client. I do all their LinkedIn stuff. I
Incredible.
have three cannabis brands. One of them's on the Northeast, two are in California. Actually, four. Four, yeah. So I'm still very much in. It's so
Yeah.
funny. All my hot takes just give me so much work. Like I don't give a fuck, dude. This one time, this guy like DM me last month, and like he was like, "Are you worried about your sizes?" I'm like, "No." Do you know why? Because a recruiter is typing in social media, and my post comes up first. Not like my profile comes up first, not my post, baby, my
Not really.
profile. And why? Because you interact with my posts. I wish there was vetting in cannabis. If there was actually vetting in cannabis, half of these people still wouldn't have jobs. I wish like where
Those are some
what you
facts.
think. yeah, like what you think on social media, not everyone's reading it, you know? There are like such like bullshit people who say crazy things, but like you can't guarantee that people who you need to see it are seeing it. So like
Mm-hmm.
all my hot takes are clearly not pissing off the people who are asking me to work with them. You know, they're like they're impressed. It brings engagement, it brings conversation. I just like conversation. I like holding a forum. I'm not married to anything. I don't get offended by anything. I just like to talk.
No, that's a really interesting point. I think sometimes people want to shy away from controversy, but I think, and obviously there's
Yeah.
some tact to it and strategy maybe, and maybe part of it is having the no fucks given attitude. Because like you are fortunate to be in a position where that's not the bulk of your business. It's like if you come, great. If you go, the door's right there. Don't let it hit you.
Yeah.
I could imagine if someone, and so like I'm trying to get at the point for like maybe some of the listeners who are like, oh, I'm just a cannabis content creator or just a cannabis person. And like, if I say this, like that's going to exile X, Y, or Z so many people. But at the same time, it's like, to your point, people aren't even really reading half the things they're saying. Sometimes I watch some of those like videos from TikTok where you're scrolling through the comments and it's just, oh, your hair looks stupid or the hat you wore is ugly. And it's like, people aren't even paying attention to the content you're actually saying. They're just offended by maybe you just even showing up and having an opinion. And so like feed into that. Maybe like it's good to be controversial with content, which is something that I'm realizing as well, even with podcasting and these topics. It's like, I'm not here to make everybody feel comfortable. I'm here to
Yeah.
talk and have, like you said, conversation. And I love talking and I love figuring out different perspectives. And especially like if I can learn something new in the process while also highlighting a topic that's clearly so engaging for people to want to weigh in the first place. So it's like if you don't have these hard conversations, then what the fuck are you doing on social media? You're just like inflating people's egos or, you know, scratching the
Yeah.
surface. You're not really getting into anything deep. So I appreciate that you highlighted that because people are afraid of talking about those things sometimes.
I mean, you've seen my Prince Street marketing. Like, all I do is post oily pizza and I just make them squirm. Like, millions and millions and millions of people view these and they're like, that's disgusting. That's disgusting. I'm like, I don't care. The more you comment, the more reach and engagement and views I get, baby. Like, I learned in my blogging days 9 years ago, like,
Mm-hmm.
don't read the comments. It's coming from a place of jealousy. It's coming from a place of like anger. It has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with you. And Gen Z knows these kids have thick skins.
I need some of
Like,
that. I need some of the thick skin from the Gen Z generation because it's hard not to take it personal. Again, I think when you're getting back into that like personal brand versus business
mhm.
brand, like I think if you're making content for someone else, maybe you don't get as, you know, hurt by certain things that are said, but when you're putting your face on it or you're saying stuff and people like just the other day, an interesting topic. I'm curious what your hot take is on this idea. In Texas, there is, I can't even believe I'm saying it out loud because it sounds so preposterous saying it out loud. You're going to maybe laugh when I say it. People are selling THCA flower. They're
Oh
selling
my God, yeah.
they're selling THCA flower, which to most people who know a thing or two about marijuana, that's the acidic form of THC, and that's what marijuana is in general. Like it's not activated until the acid burns off through decarboxylation, which is why you light a joint, why you bake it, why you use heat.
Yeah.
But people are so tapped into this little loophole as they are in multiple, you know, arenas here in Texas and kind of like the
Mhm.
vast hemp market. I mean, we got hemp drive Delta 9, obviously Delta 8. But I posted
Everything.
it on LinkedIn and this
THCV. THCV.
THCV
That's new.
too. But we have this
Yeah.
guy and one of my comments, and he's like, "Oh, you must be feeding in from big pharma and big marijuana that you don't think that THCA flower is legitimate." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you even saying, dude? Like, do you know who I am? Do you know where I come from? Do you know what I talk about? Like, I don't give a shit about big pharma or big cannabis. Like, I just want to ask questions because customers are asking me these questions. Like, literal
Wait,
customers are
real quick,
asking."
real
Yeah,
quick, real quick, Shayda. To answer your question, he doesn't know anything about you because these are flip. These are quick.
for
These are
sure.
quick. They have no attention span. Like that's how you think about it first. Like this guy has no back. He coming in. The only thing he's ever seen is this. He's gonna post opinion and move on.
Well, right.
And just like that, these
Well,
people
friend
don't
did so
mean
he doesn't
anything.
even he wasn't even following me. It was a follower of
Of
someone else,
course.
because you see how LinkedIn kind of spreads that. So yes, that's the
Yeah.
punchline, right? It's just he's a flip. It doesn't even matter. But it hurt me for like 5 minutes. I saw it and I stared at it and I
Yeah.
was like, ew, like who the fuck are you, dude? And then I let it roll off my back and I was like, I got bigger things to do. I was like, thank you for your comment. I'm going to now go make content off of your comment. So obviously using it to my advantage, but it's hard not to take some of those things personal when, again, I think it's your personal brand or it's your livelihood or it's your job kind of like on the line, so to speak, to some extent.
I guess the best. So when I started, so TikTok and Instagram are two very different audiences, and we must realize that. They do not have a sense of humor on Instagram. They have a sense of humor on TikTok. Okay. They have a sense of humor on like Twitter. But like once you figure out, to everyone listening, once you figure out that every platform has a different audience and same user, you shift your reaction based on your channel. People are professional as hell on LinkedIn. They'll have a totally different persona like on Twitter. So
Good point.
when I started troll marketing, I kept it on TikTok because these people have a sense of humor. So when I started, co-posting and taking some Prince Street stuff and putting it on Instagram of the oily, I got reamed. Okay, reamed. We're never coming to your restaurant again. That was so like total reaction, like so different, right? So then when I started doing my own personal branding troll marketing on TikTok, I was having so much fun with it. So I did this one where I'm like, when you're the brat of the family and you get your own room on vacation, had so much fun on TikTok. I brought it to Instagram and I got terrible hate. And this was the first time I had to really like put my own advice and be like, this is so fun. And my friends were commenting, they're like, oh my God, like they're being so mean. I'm like, I love it. I love it. It's fun. It's troll. I posted a troll video. It's going to piss people off. I have to accept that. And I think it's a day by day process because we are so vulnerable online.
Yeah.
Just yesterday on LinkedIn, like my New York post, I had some people who were like, hey, like I'm representing New York, blah, blah. And it hurt a little, but then I had to realize I'm like, this is all the open forum. Everything that we're talking about should be said. Someone's allowed to disagree with me on my own post. It's fine. But it's a process. It takes a lot of time and making content to like kind of get there. And I could see how it's really like daunting to people, but I think, once you realize how detached it is and how, sometimes these are bots, right? I love telling people, I'm like, you're arguing with a bot, you're arguing with a computer. Like I had like my viral, like, water one, like give postal workers water when it's hot. And so many people are like, they could bring their own water. And I'm like, I don't think you're a real person, but you're getting so many people like, who are you? Like so many people mad at this like comment. And I'm like, you guys, this is probably a bot. How do I know? I'm going to treat you like a bot, though. I'm going to call you a bot because you're not even like acting humane right now. So,
That's
like,
really
there's
good
such
feedback.
muck, right? There's such muck through the internet now. Twitter, I don't even fuck with Twitter anymore. Like,
I
Twitter
don't
is
fuck
just
with
like a
Twitter.
void. People are arguing with bots there. Facebook, arguing. Like, as soon as you get rid of that aspect, you could heal.
No, it's good,
So argue.
cathartic feedback because I'm listening and I'm like self soothing with your advice. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay, Shayda. Like, you can say
Yeah.
sometimes controversial things and like get comments that maybe don't settle well with you. And like, you can move on and you can keep going. It just is unfortunate that especially on the cannabis side, it's like you're stuck dealing between controversy and then like terrorism. And I say that lightly considering everything else going on in the world, but the terrorism of these platforms, right? Like they're just like blatantly censoring. There's no rhyme or reason. It's very, I mean, for me, this morning, I build this brand based on what effort was going to go into me posting that content for them. And now that it got taken down, I literally had to send the brand an email and be like, well, I still
I've
did
been
the
there.
work. So
Yep.
I hope you pay me still. You can use
Hmm.
this content as user generated content, but also I'm like, well, I don't know what's the right thing to do. So you said you've been there. How do you handle that,
Yeah.
especially in cannabis where you're making content, whether it's for a brand, specifically probably with a content creator, you're the content creator, you've hired a content creator, their content gets taken down, money has obviously been exchanged. What are the fucking rules?
So I was the content creator. I think like early this year, I worked with Source, and they paid me to make a video about like their new box. And I did it in kind of like a fun TikTok-y like unboxing way. And it got deleted in like 30 minutes. So I immediately emailed them and I said, hey guys, here's the video. It got deleted, but I'm gonna make something new. So I did this time without any words because in the first one I was like talking and like about the strains and everything.
Sure.
So the second time I just did this and I told them, I'm like, and by the way, this probably won't perform as well. I'm so sorry, but I did the work. So I just made a second one. I made a super chill and compliant, and they were chill. Like
Mm.
thank you, Source, for being chill.
No,
And I
thank
would
you.
on the receiving end, because it's not your fault. By now, we like realize that there is literally no rhyme or reason.
No,
Like
it's a gamble.
every single post, it's just a toss up. Some days cookies will get deleted, some days like it's awful. But yeah, if you're in that situation, provide that you did the work and just think of a different one. Like for you, advice, maybe there's something else you could do. Or like maybe you could do a graphic instead of a video that got fed. But like, if you still want to like keep the partnership or like some content, maybe just try something different. And like it doesn't, and this is when it sucks, right? This is when you tell them like, look, this won't be the best. I just want
Right.
to make something that's gonna pass. Is that cool? And they should be because you already did try to be yourself.
Right. No, that's fair advice. I think for me to push back on that a little bit, it's frustrating because I think I did everything compliant based on what I know. And for me
Oh
to go
yeah.
make new content, it's more time that I'm investing. And it just is like par for the course, unfortunately, that I don't like, yes, I could if I had like generosity in my heart, and maybe I'll find it after this call somewhere. Like, oh, you know what? I'll just do like a talking head video. Because in the video, I was like rolling or packing a cone. So maybe Instagram is like, oh, she's actually showing drug paraphernalia. Like, that's a
That's what
no
I'm
no.
saying. I
So I
wish we
get it.
knew.
Exactly. I wish we knew. It's just the feedback that I got from posting my reaction to the deletion of the video. Because I went to Instagram to my stories and I posted to my followers. I was like, this is fucking
Yeah,
stupid.
yeah.
Here's why. And I had split responses of like, oh, well, maybe try this. This is how you will get around Instagram. Or, oh, maybe try that. That's how you get around Instagram. And to me,
Yeah.
I looked into my account because you can go into your settings and you can see, like, is my account
Yeah.
flagged? And Instagram is like, you better be careful. You could lose your account if you keep violating our terms. And so to me, I'm like, it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
worth it. Like, I don't want to lose my 24,000 followers to try to repost something for a couple $100s. Like, it's just not, like, I already got flagged now. I'm not interested in reposting something. So I just wanted to add that. I think it's obviously people listening, if you're content creators or you're working with content creators, it's at your own discretion. Because I have a lot of friends too who are content creators who are not cannabis content creators, but CBD brands will reach out and then they'll get
Mhm.
flagged and they're like, whoa, I post fitness. Like, I don't want to fucking lose my account over
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
one little brand deal. So it's kind of, taking it with a grain of salt, and also every situation is unique because there's not a fucking rhyme or reason to it. So I appreciate your 2 cents
Exactly.
on it. I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do, but I
I
digress.
get it. The second one didn't get deleted if that is helpful to people who want to try again.
Right.
Um, you know. But yeah, I wish it was like blanket rules, but
I
there
know. Well,
isn't.
like as I'm scrolling too, like after mine gets deleted, I'm seeing, at least because like now my feed is like curated to like other cannabis content creators, and it's like people taking fat rips off bongs and people,
I
and I'm like,
know.
what the fuck? Like Instagram, at least be equal. Like at least like show me that you're trying to, whatever. But depending on when this episode airs, just be forewarned. I had a lot of people slide into the DMs saying, I guess Instagram is out for blood right now. So there have been other people's accounts that have been, I think more so being, terrorized or censored. So just like FYI to people out there with cannabis content. But I want to kind of circle back around to, kind of like the topic around you working for other brands. So you mentioned cookies. I know you've worked for other cannabis brands
Yes.
full time in the, content, social media. I want to kind of leave it open-ended for you to go into how challenging it was working for these brands or just brands in general. And I think a point to that is something that you shared around having so many different CMOs during your time. And I'd love to get into like the specifics, like was it one company, was it something you observed in just in general in cannabis? And I'll kind of tee off that conversation. I don't think it's just cannabis. I think that it is kind of startups in general. Before I got into cannabis,
Mm-hmm.
I worked in tech, and I think I was DMing
Yeah.
you, I had at least like 7 or 8 different VP of marketing, chief marketing officer, executive
Yep.
during 6 years. So probably a new boss every year and some months. And that was so painful for me as a up and coming employee at the time, because I felt like every time I had a new boss, my job was under threat. I had to keep justifying what my value was with the company. Like, this is why I'm hired in this position. This is why I've been here for 4, 5, 6 years now. And oh, you're new. And now I have to give you the whole spiel of why the hell you should keep me and not replace me with another employee. And so I just personally remember what that feeling was like. And I persevered. I think, through the hard times, you learn obviously what kind of leadership you do and don't like. You learn how you would maybe handle a situation, give or take, certain circumstances. And so just knowing that you've also experienced that, but with the lens of cannabis, and now you've transitioned from working full time for these brands to now being an independent. I just want to kind of like, peel the curtain back, because I'm sure people listening are not immune or alone in feeling that they might be the only person who's going through that. Like, oh my God, my whole company is hemorrhaging. I mean, layer on top of that all the brands that are hemorrhaging and firing people: Bovida, Weed Maps, Leafly. I mean, I'm sure it's happening to actual plant touching
Oh my
brands as
gosh.
well. And you can speak to that, but like, you see it in the reports, in the media, in the news. Like, there's just so much turnover as kind of like an overarching topic in the industry, right? And so when you're an
It's awful.
employee at the butt of either you're getting laid off or your bosses are getting laid off, like, that fucking sucks. So I know you have
Yeah, it does.
experience navigating that, and that was, I'm sure, what further propelled you to being like, I'm going to be an independent and not fucking deal with this shit on payroll, and I can walk away at the end of the day. So I would just love to kind of let you have the floor to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, basically in the upcoming 5 years of legalization, every brand in California has had one major layoff at least. Um, because when it was going good, you hire up, and then now it's not going good, and like it's startup life, right? We're all masquerading like they're all startups.
For sure.
Um, my first full, because like I've been trapping since I came out here in 2015. I worked for like a distro, and it was wonderful. I even did social media, like it was all so great. And then as soon as we flipped in 2018, I saw MedMen was out there, the billboards, everything, and I'm like, holy shit, they're doing real marketing. I want to do real marketing. Like, that's all I've ever wanted to do with cannabis. I come from music. I've always like, I wanted to bring my skills there. I got hired at Amendment to the Social. It was absolutely perfect. So we had one CMO there. So that's number one. He got let go about 5 months after, about like 4 months after I started. Then we got number two, and I really, really loved him. And then he got let go the following June, and then they brought in someone I despise. And she made us all re-interview for our jobs, and she gunned for me because she came from fashion, and she's like, social. Like, why aren't we doing this? I'm like, lady,
Yep, I've been there.
you got here because you got here
Yep.
because of your husband. Give me a break.
Yep.
Yeah, I quit within like 2 weeks. Okay, that was the thing. I'm like, I'm not giving her the satisfaction of firing me, all because she wants to take over social, which it's like, bitch, I grew that stuff. I grew that
Yes.
shit 100,000 plus followers in a year, first verified. Like, MedMen really, what the whole marketing team did with MedMen in 2018, 2019, literally like was incredible. Like, really was. And then all went up in flames. So, so I pieced out. And then that was the biggest hit of my life. That was PTSD, baby. Like I hated it. It took me a long time to get over it. And I have fully gotten over it. I definitely appreciate MedMen for what it was. It was a boot camp. I learned so much. I walked in with social. I left with email, influencer, blog, web. Like it was incredible. Um, but that was like, that was the beginning of the end of the industry already. We only had like 1.5 good years of legal, and then it just like really took a hit. Um, and that was when I just like realized, yeah, okay, it could like this is becoming a thing. And while this is all happening in MedMen, it's happening everywhere else. So I'm starting to gather friends. Like after 5 years, I can say at least 25 of my friends have had the same trajectory. Um, and it's not us, like when I was at a cannabis company, they had to cut salaries. Like it's not my fault. Like when you hop around cannabis, I don't fault anyone for how long they've stayed anywhere, because I just know how all these companies are. um so what I think started to become the pattern then is you start a new company. So after I left MedMen, I went to West Coast Cure. And this wasn't my situation because it was a smaller team, but now, and it will be my situation later, but you go into a team, a new one, and you're so freaking excited, you have ideas, but you're met with a hardened team. They just went through their own layoffs. They just got a new CMO they don't like. They don't they're underpaid. So like you immediately lose that spark.
Yep.
You immediately lose that help. Like, and that's how I know they're all the same. Like they're all the same. I don't know one brand except for 710 that is doing well enough to love life. I'm sorry, even Kiva just had a round of layoffs. Kiva, number one.
Uh-huh.
So we're all kind of hardened. So that's three CMOs already. So then I go to West Coast Cure and they had a CMO, but then the pandemic hit and I unfortunately had a death in the family. So I wasn't there long, but that's CMO number four. And then I started with advanced nutrients, and my boss got let go within like 3 weeks, and the pandemic started. So CMO number five. And then they hired Roseanne, who I love to death, but then they let her go in like 2 months. So CMO number six. And then I went over to Canacraft, where Angela was there at CMO. And I loved her, but my direct report quit within a month because other opportunities. So half boss. So this is the second time in a row my direct report leaves within a month. And then I went over to Cookies, and my direct report leaves in a month. And what are we? I think we're number 8 or something. And then the huge CMO leaves, and they never rehire any of these roles. And I'm gonna make a LinkedIn status about this soon, but being like, how can you fault someone for losing motivation when you don't even like you can't even appreciate your team enough to hire them ahead or like a boss or anything.
It's
And this has happened everywhere. Yeah. And this is like that has been the trajectory. This is like, and it's like I really can't stress enough. It's the same. Curely, just everyone goes through this. It's everybody, and it's nuts. And I just think you're playing with capital. You're having fun. CMOs are always the first to go because you're the head of the marketing, and you have one bad campaign. Peace. um, but yeah, that's what California, and I mean, like I can think of like Las Vegas might be too, but like this is what California cannabis workers have been dealing with. At least the marketing, sales, accounting, like the real corporate side, for the last like 5 years, and it's pretty nuts.
No, it's fucking brutal. I mean, obviously you've lived through it. I want to highlight and echo the sentiment of it being a boot camp, because that's kind of what I walked away from my tech experience thinking. Like, I fucking hated it, but I also really appreciated it for what it was, and it made me the person that I am today. And like you said, it gave me a breadth of skill sets that I couldn't have learned in any other kind of capacity, but it doesn't take away from just the reality, the shitty nature of it. And you're talking about, obviously, this is happening in California. I'm picking up a little bit, and you mentioned it, just like as these states open up legalization, and it's exciting, everybody's hiring and there's so much opportunity. And then as things normalize out, and the last 6 months of this podcast, it's like fortunate and also really unfortunate. You're talking to a lot of brands. I had a lot of Colorado brands, which to a lot of people is, one of those OG markets, and they're down. Their sales are down. They
I've
thought
heard
420 was going to be up. And then it's like, okay, well, maybe Colorado sales are down because inflation or this. And it's like, well, now you have Oklahoma, you have Arizona, you have New Mexico, you have all these other states online, which to me just kind of like lends itself to the conversation of any version of federal legalization, any version of more states going online. Like we're obviously like not through it by any means. And so of course I know sitting here in Texas and people are so fucking excited, and I'm the wet blanket of the group who's like, how about we really take a look at the rest of the United States? How about we take a look at these legacy markets? How about we
no
read
one does.
the writing on the wall, and just to be
Or read
blunt,
the
let's just
laws.
talk about it. Yeah, read the fucking laws. But I mean, you're talking about some of these brands more so, I guess, in California, maybe plant touching. I mean, I mentioned Leafly, Weed Maps, Bovida. Bovida shocked me because they're out in Michigan. They're a massive brand.
Dude, Dutchie
also had a lot of layoffs. And it's like, to me, I'm like,
and they got rid of
okay,
their people.
these are platforms, these are tech. So like, it's the
It's
point I
tech.
guess we're trying to make is it's not any exclusive category in the industry. I think it's the reality of all these things. It's inflation, it's more states going online, it's the instability of the market. And I just like want people to be more prepared for it. And not that they can't survive it, but to your point too, when you're looking at, unfortunately, who's the first to go in most of these scenarios, and like knowing my audience is predominantly marketing oriented, it's like, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. Like, they're going to come for you. So it's more just a, forewarning to not be afraid, but to be prepared, right? Like that's what I want people to walk away from, is not to be like scared shitless. Like, I think we've all had our moments where we're like crying in the bathroom, like what the fuck's going to happen? How am I going to pay my bills? But at the same time, how do you be prepared? So maybe it's setting up a side hustle, a side project, diversifying, because I just don't see it getting any better in cannabis. And so like, from your perspective, coming from such a dominated market, I mean, also plug, we have a previous episode with you. I think it was from 2 years ago at this point now. You were on the podcast way early. But we got into some of these topics. And so if people want to hear your full story, like I encourage them to go back and listen to that episode. But I just remember talking to you and you're like, Shayda, all these big brands in California that people think are making money, like they're not. And like that always stuck with me. And everywhere I would go, I'm like, you better listen to me because I know stuff. And people are like, no, California and Colorado, they're doing fine. And I'm like, no, literally, I talk to people who are in these markets who tell me they're not doing fine. And so I just don't know what, like I kind of want to get into a little bit of speculation with you now too, because you just did a post on LinkedIn. It was one of your hot takes. You're talking about legalization, obviously, when states go from medical to rec. I want to get into, like let's go into our future predictions, because I know that's kind of part of what we wanted to talk about today.
2023,
like what's going to happen at a federal level? Do we really want federal legalization? Is that good for cannabis? Like, I just got put on my radar by my fiance, shout out Sage, for always coming in with some truth. He goes, did you know the DEA has a cannabis grow in New Mexico? It's called like Bright Light Farms or something.
Yeah.
And he was just like,
and they're on the stock exchange.
Why do you think the DEA has a grow? And it's like, I've seen these stats, and it says basically Idaho could grow all the hemp in the United States, and it could fund all the products in America. So it's like, realistically, if you go towards federal legalization, this is where my brain goes, the DEA could just grow their own. They could have it. They could regulate it. They know what's in it. They know how to distribute it. Why would we even, like, I don't think we're going to really get federal legalization with distribution. I think it's going to be for the few, maybe multi-state operators who have these deep pockets, these deep ties to pharma. I just realistically don't think they're going to let interstate commerce happen in the capacity that we think it's going to happen. And also what that impact is going to have on all these people who are vying after licenses. Like, there's a long list of people in Texas who want a license when we go rec, and I'm like, you think they're going to give you a license? There's 3 medical licenses. 2 are operational. They're $400,000 every 2 years to maintain. You have to be vertically integrated. And you think all 2,000 of you hemp licensees are going to get fucking cannabis licenses? No way is the state of Texas going to let you do that. So I just said a
No.
lot. I want to hear your thoughts. Give us some Liz hot takes.
Um, so federal's always going to be, federal's always going to be on the horizon. Operations wise, it'll be a shit show. Because everyone is literally working on their own state. So I think interstate commerce and, descheduling, decriminalizing, just making sure you're not fucking arrested for it. Okay. Whatever that is to get there, plus trying to explore interstate commerce, I think has a better chance of federal because, at the end of the day, federal, you're talking politics here. There's like deep pockets everywhere. There's religion, there's everything. Like we have a big fight here. So, little wins while we can. I mean, come on, this year was already something, progress, whatever. Like this was already something. But I think that we are just not we are not prepared for a full blown, just given how everyone already operates. I think.
Well, why do you think we're not ready for full blown? Like, what do we need as? What do we need as federal? What do we need as states in order to see some stuff get moved?
We need to start working together. So like interstate commerce or something, like California has to be able to ship somewhere already before we're like, yeah, woo, everything you've been doing for the last years and years and years on your state no longer matters. It's like, what about our laws? Like, do local laws still apply? Like at the end of the day, everything's local. So if it went federal, maybe nothing would change. Like Beverly Hills is still illegal. Like it always, like when a state goes rec, it's still down to the counties. Yeah. So who knows, right? Like, okay, I just that's probably gonna be a LinkedIn post. If we go federal, nothing's gonna fucking change.
Well, let me interject a thought too, because I come from the hemp side and hemp is federally legal and we do have interstate commerce. I've seen how much, to me, hemp is the example. And until hemp gets their shit together, you're not going to see it with marijuana. Yeah. I was just in DC lobbying a couple months ago. We're trying to get these politicians to put pressure on the FDA to make some sort of update in terms of, can you list cannabis and CBD as safe? And the FDA is like, nope, we don't want to fucking make a comment. And these politicians are like, to your kind of point, well, we've got other politics and we've got religion and we've got other issues. So cannabis, low on the totem pole. We don't really want to budge on it. And so to me, it's like, wow, at a federal level with hemp, you have so much shit going wrong from a testing perspective, testing and standardization, that until that gets sorted out, which I know people are working on. Again, I'm not trying to be a total wet blanket. I'm just trying to be let's pay attention. And so if hemp can't figure out consistent testing, if there's no standardization for how these products get labeled, what is safe, what's consumer efficacy, then how is marijuana going to go there? To your point, when you have municipalities with different laws and it's all exaggerated with people who don't care or pay attention, and they're like, oh, I'm going to just bring my Oklahoma 10,000 milligram chocolate bar down to Texas. And I'm like, you think Texas wants your 10,000 milligram chocolate bar? That's not going to be legal in our state. So it just, to me, is putting it in such a contrasting, again, I don't think legalization is coming anytime soon. I would hope, to your point, in terms of, I don't know if it's decriminalization. Those are kind of posts that I'm working on. Something to where it's not an offense.
Yeah, whatever it's gonna be. Yeah, whatever it's gonna be. That legalization. Whatever New York is doing.
Well, what is New York doing? I know you were just in New York, and I saw that they're now getting their hole in a hoopty around these bodegas operating, and they're finding, I don't know, I saw it was fentanyl in some of these drugs, and it's you don't know who you're buying from.
Oh, yeah, I saw they've been tested. There's E. coli. That's so scary. I mean, it feels unsafe. All the people who live in New York, they've had their guy for years. They're not suddenly yeah, let's go to my bodega. It feels very
right.
I wouldn't trust. I don't know. It felt just you don't know where it's from. It's kind of weird. And I come from California where it's like very tested. Um, but yeah, no, I'm really excited. I just like they're like they're just backtracking their laws. They're just like they're going really fast. Like before, licenses most and this happens pretty much everywhere, but like licenses are just granted. They don't come with an address. Like just because you have a license, you can sit on it and sell it. Like having a license doesn't mean you're going to do anything with it. So I think, that's going to be the hard reality for a lot of people because now you're a business owner. Now you have hundreds and thousands in rent somewhere. Now you have employees. Like, is everyone cut out for it? No.
No.
Just like this is like just because it's a free for all doesn't mean you've ever been a business owner in your life. I know that there are regulations that like say like I know that there are vetting for that. Like I think there are like, years attached like to owning a business, but like this is not easy and you are going to have to learn the hard way, I guess. Like we all had to,
Yeah.
basically. Like years and years of turmoil we've been through. And I think like New York is probably going to have to go with it. Probably even harder though, because they were vertically medical. So like now they have to build all these brands. Like California, we were horizontal medical. There were a lot of brands already. Florida's vertical medical. So I think it's just going to be really interesting for sure.
I want to bring up too because when I was in DC lobbying, I remember DMing you and being like, "Oh, what are like DC cannabis laws?" And it's
Oh
very
yeah.
gray. It's
It's
like,
adult use.
yeah, they like legalized it so that they couldn't, I guess, like deal with them, but it's technically not legal. It's kind of like you go into the dispensary, but it's fronted as a CBD store. And then you have to ask for a menu and buy paraphernalia, which then gets you cannabis. So you're buying it through a gifting program versus like a true medical or
Yeah.
recreational dispensary. And it was like a little bit
Complicated.
frightening because one, I paid fucking too much money for a joint. I think I paid $40 for a single joint, a 1 gram joint, because I bought a lighter. And so I was gifted the joint. But there was no quality. There was no COA attached to it. I don't know what the strain was. And of course, I bought it because I was curious. And of course, I smoked it because I
Yeah.
wanted to get high. But like in retrospect, thinking about it, I was like, what did I just buy? And so I ended up DMing the brand and being like, do you grow this? Like, where did this come from? Is this legal?
Uh-huh.
Because the person I was with, he also bought one and it was not very good quality. Like, for what we paid for, I was expecting some really
Yeah, yeah.
tasty stuff and it was like very swaggy. And they were like, no, we take so much pride. We grow our own. It's all DC grown. And I was like, I don't know if you should be telling people that because this isn't really great shit. So,
Yeah.
not to, poo poo on the DC market or anything. It
I
was
didn't get good
just,
stuff in New York. No. I like the menu. I went to two shops, like real, like legit consumption lounges. And the menu was like 90% California, 10% New York. And I'm like, I'm gonna buy New York, I want to see the stuff. And what they had in like the container that you looked at was not what I got in the bag. So, and I didn't even like say anything. I'm just like, whatever. It's the New York experience. But yeah, no,
how
like
do you know it was
some
California
states don't
versus
grow.
New York? Like they're marketing California
They
brands or
told
California
me,
products or.
oh, they have California products. Yeah, they've been trafficking for years. I was able to
I
get
know, but like
Corova in like
on a menu,
2014.
like they're
Yeah, yeah,
literally.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, obviously these are like these aren't licensed shops. So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was my
yeah.
post. I'm like, how are we like there will always be out of state product in New York. How do you uplift New York brands? It's going to be tough.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Raw
I
garden is
think.
everywhere. Everywhere.
Well, especially coming from California, where I think that fight, at least from my observation, again, I am by no means a California resident to any capacity. Dated a guy for 9 months who lived in San Francisco, so maybe that's a little bit of a claim to understanding the California market from a local perspective. But aside from that, to me, that was always a struggle. It's the legacy operators versus the regulated market. And like when you transition into regulated, there's still going to be legacy because people or maybe have already built really great brands and businesses and don't need to deal with the regulation side of things. And so I think you're going to just see a lot more of that happen with states like New York. And they're clearly like already
Yeah.
doing it, whether it's New York legacy or California legacy. Like they're obviously like, we don't care, but it's going to be hard, to your point, of like bringing these brands in, establishing some sort of quality assurance. And for me, it's always punctuated. I'm a consumer. These are consumer packaged goods that we are selling, for better or worse. I just brought it up on one of my previous episodes, but I went to an MJ Biz after party, and I walked up to one of the parties and someone just had a bowl of pre-rolls. There was no, this is the strain, this is the genetics, this is who
Yeah.
grew it, this is the
Sounds about right.
percentage, here's a COA, like minimum, just like this is what you're smoking. And I was very, disturbed by it, because I just think
Yeah.
we need to do a little bit better if we want to see progress being made in terms of actually getting towards some sort of legalization, or government being like, yes, let's trust the pre-rolls in a basket with no labeling on them. Like, I know there
Right?
were probably not fentanyl laced in those pre-rolls because we were at a pretty public
No,
MJ
probably
Biz party. But
not.
if that was at, let's say, your friend's house, which is a bowl of
Yeah.
pre-rolls, like I don't know, depending on if you know your friend very well, would you take it or not?
Yeah, no,
So
exactly. You should always, especially like like flour less dodgy in my opinion, but like edibles and like vapes, really always be careful with those things. I would never buy a vape or an edible, especially from an unlicensed shop, because too heavy of a dosage for edibles, and vape, you never know what the fuck is in that.
yeah, the vapes are very scary for me, unfortunately, these days. Great thoughts, great opinions. Okay, final question. Just like, what is your final predictions? Like, what do you hope or anticipate is going to potentially happen in 2023? Federal, state, anything.
Um, I would really, I'm just, I guess we're kind of moving into like more layoffs, I guess, right? This is like the beginning. So I think probably like more layoffs, more emphasis on the personal brand, and like, finding jobs. And I think brands are becoming more on board with that. They really do see the sides of like agency freelance work. Um, More states are just going to be figuring it out, right? Like we're just going to be like going with it, seeing how they do. I don't know if California is going to stabilize yet. Like some serious like tax work needs to be done. I just read actually that they owe like there's a lot that they've already collected in taxes, but we owe like 600 million to like
Shut up.
California. Like we don't even have that. So like,
Trade them some hemp
so
flower in exchange for the money that they owe the state or something.
right. So I'm hoping for stabilization in California, but I really don't know. But yeah. How about you?
Okay. Well, for me, well, so Texas has its 88th legislative session kicking off in January.
Okay.
And the state of Texas we've got two markets, right? So we have medical marijuana. They are hoping to go from 0.5, from 1% to 5%. 2 years ago, they went from 0.5 to 1%. They were hoping to go from that to 5, and they didn't get it. They're capped then, no concentrations, no flour. Max they sell is like maybe 20 milligram edibles. Hemp, we
Wow.
are capped at 0.3, but on a dry weight basis. So I can sell you legally 10, 15, 20 milligram Delta 9 gummies. So they certainly don't like that. So I'm anticipating they're going to be lobbying heavy. We got Delta
I've
8
been
lawsuits
seeing
out
that.
in the state. So you got hemp derived Delta 9, you got Delta 8. In June, they just kicked a smokable hemp ban our way. So we can sell it, you can consume it and possess it. You can cultivate hemp for smokables, but you can't manufacture or process in the state of Texas. So that hurts a lot of my cultivation friends who were processing. But the
Ugh.
reality is nobody's regulating. So take that information with you, if you will. So I'm gearing up for, rolling our sleeves up and seeing what happens in legislation. We're
We're
hopeful.
gonna work.
We're going to work a lot. So I'm a part of the Texas Hemp Coalition. I'm on the executive board. It's kind of like the leading nonprofit advocacy group. Our organization is very involved. So we're already teeing up conversations. Just how do we mobilize? How do we get in front of policymakers? How do we go, prepare ourselves for public testimony and advocate as best we can? But I talk a lot about, obviously there's all this federal change, but you need to get involved in your local communities because that's where you can make the most impact, especially considering that every state and
Everything's
municipality
local.
has different laws. So I'm like,
Everything's local.
I'm just worried about what's happening here in my backyard. You know, are we going to be in business next year? Are we going to be able to sell products we're selling? So I don't know yet. I'm all just speculating what they're going to do. But if the previous, piece of regulation have been any indication, it's not going to be easy. So that's what
It's not
preparing for. But
thoughts and prayers, though.
Oh my God, thank you. Same to you in California. I always know
Thoughts
I
and
can
prayers.
get a good reality check. Yes, thoughts and prayers.
Yes,
Prayers,
yes.
please. I will ask you one final question just to leave the listeners with some optimism. Not that you haven't been grateful and optimistic. You're the
It's okay. It's okay. I'm
cynical.
like
literally I'm the cynical one. I'm like, Liz, it's bad. And you're like, no, I'm excited. And I'm like, you're crazy. I'm the crazy one. Like if I love being actionable. So like, okay, people are listening. They've made it all the way to the end. If there's like one thing they should leave right now and go do immediately to like, I don't know, prepare themselves, be excited, like whatever the case may be. They live all across the United States or not in one market particularly. Like what's a piece of advice you would like to leave with the listeners, the viewers?
I guess, since Clubhouse is non-existent, LinkedIn has become like your best networking tool. So like, I've really found like a community there of people that I really like. So if you're not on LinkedIn, I really, I just like you say, I really suggest getting on it. If anything, just to follow and see the conversations that are happening. I think we're all so siloed in our states that people kind of need a little reality check. Like having these conversations are a wake up call to people. Like we're all having the same branding, sales, everything. So like, come on in, you might learn something. So yeah, like LinkedIn,
Retweet or +1 or
where the conversations are at.
Where the conversations are
Sponsored
at.
by Microsoft. Yeah, it's either owned by Microsoft. They're not going under. Elon's not going to buy it.
A little bit of safety,
We're good.
security over there on LinkedIn. No, thank you so much, Liz.
Yeah.
Always a great resource to me,
Well,
to the people of the podcast. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you watched live, thank you. If you're watching this after the fact, thank you. Don't forget this is a recording on YouTube. You can find previous To Be Blunt recordings on YouTube, and you'll have new episodes on Mondays, every Monday. So we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.
Amazing.